Let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by David H. And David H. writes, "Hey, John. According to Deadline, the CEO of Cinemark, Mark Zordai, has announced that they speak... That just sounds like a comic book villain name, Zordai. Anyway, has announced that they will now assess the theatrical window on a movie-by-movie basis. He even stated that they are always open to showing streaming movies in their theaters. What do you think of these changes? They good or just stupid?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And listen, the issue of and the topic of the theatrical window has been, especially lately, a very, very hot topic. Now, for those of you who don't understand or know what the theatrical window is, the theatrical window is basically this agreement between studios, distributors, and the movie theaters. And basically, the way the theatrical window is this. The theatrical window is a period of time between when a movie comes out in theaters to when it's allowed to come out on various forms of home video, be it streaming, physical media, whatever. That window of time is what's known as the theatrical window. And the movie theaters want that theatrical window. It's about 3 months, Rob, right now. It's roughly about 3 months is that window from when it first comes out in theaters to when they can put it out on video. Some studios, not all, famously Disney doesn't want that theatrical window to go anywhere, but some studios like Universal and a few others would like to shrink that window and have a shorter period of time between when a movie comes out in theaters versus when it comes out on home video. Of course, this would be incredibly damaging to the movie industry because if, a movie's coming out at home in 2.5 weeks, why bother going out to the theaters? Some people would think, and going there. So the theaters have always fought to keep that. Now, a short time ago, AMC Theaters signed a deal with Universal Studios that allows Universal, with certain films, to release them in AMC and then release them on home video later. Of course, this doesn't mean that Regal went along with it or a number of other of the movie theater chains, but AMC did it. Now Cinemark is saying that they are open, given the current circumstances, they are open on a movie-by-movie basis to consider that approach, to consider allowing a movie in their theaters and for it to come out on home video on a much shortened release window with a few caveats. Let's take a look at this. This is from Slasher, who writes, "The Croods 2 is the biggest movie that Cinemark will be playing this month that won't be exclusive to theaters for very long. Universal is sending into theaters starting on November 25th, but it's expected to arrive on VOD before Christmas." That's a very, very short theatrical window.
Yeah.
Freaky will be adopting a similar strategy. I am looking forward to Freaky, I have to admit. We'll be adopting a similar strategy with a theatrical release on November 13th, followed by a VOD release on December 4th. That's less than 3 weeks. These details were revealed by IndieWire back at the beginning of October, but at the time it was merely a general offer to theaters from Universal, and now Cinemark feels that they need to accept it with a few other options to bring in revenue. Okay. Rob, you know that I have said, and I believe firmly along with the movie theaters, the notion of getting rid of the theatrical window is essentially getting rid of the movie theater industry. The movie theaters need that theatrical window and studios need the theaters. And therefore, I think, I just think, Rob, you and I talked about this. The move by AMC Theaters was completely idiotic. The leadership over at AMC these days, I don't know what they're smoking, but it was a completely idiotic move. But, does that mean this Cinemark move is idiotic? Actually, no. And here's my rationale on this. When you read through the story, it's pretty clear that Cinemark is saying, hey, you know what? During this period of time that we are in right now, we can loosen our position on this theatrical window thing and look at films on a film-by-film basis. We have to take our circumstances into consideration. Is it a bad idea right now, in the midst of a global pandemic, for at least temporarily and on a film-by-film basis of the theater's choosing, to compromise with the studios and just to get some things on screen, even if it's not ideal. Rob, when you're in a bad situation, sometimes options that are not necessarily ideal are the, in fact, best options available on the table. And we've talked a lot during this pandemic that there's a lot of things that you can do right now that under normal circumstances, you'd never do in a million years. But circumstances dictate necessity. And I'll be honest with you, Rob, as much as I am against the collapse of the theatrical window, because I think that'll ruin moviegoing, that's just me. To do that right now in this particular environment, ideal? No, but it might be the best option. It gets movies into theaters where the studios aren't going to do much business right now. And then it allows studios to get their movies, I should say, out into the VOD market in a shortened period of time. It's not ideal for either side, but it's better than what is available without it. So I got to say, I think actually Cinemark is looking at this pretty much with a level head. I actually think this might be a pretty good approach temporarily. For the time being, we'll see where we're at 6 months from now. But as of right now, Rob, I got to say, unless I'm missing something, I don't think this is a bad idea, either for the theater side or the studio side. What do you think about this?
Well, I have to say that I have to agree with you here because we're in a different world. And the question is, how do studios and companies that are production companies that are making product, how do they continue to make product and still be profitable? Because the whole point is, what people forget is that movies are a product like anything else. They're widgets, they're cars, they're anything that's being manufactured to be sold to the consumer market is in fact a product. And what's happened is the method of distribution for this product has been completely disrupted. And yet these businesses have been set up to work. They make product. That's their product. Their products is movies and television or whatever, and they have to be able to sell it. And right now, the distribution method, which is theatrical, the primary distribution method has been completely shut down. So we have to look at the ancillary markets, which is physical media, which is dying, and then, of course, streaming, which is exploding. So what do? You've got SVOD or PVOD, whatever you want to call it. Pay-per-view is the next alternative. If you can't go to the movie theater, you'll pay for new content directly, and you're selling directly to the consumer. Now, the real question is, the consumer's not used to paying a premium for their streaming material because they get everything for free based on their, not free, but they're paying for a monthly fee. So how do you get consumers to fork out $20 or $30 or whatever to get a brand new movie? This is a mindset that is new. And eventually, I think it's going to catch on and people are going to realize, oh, well, the next Avengers movie is going to be available for 6 months, on pay-per-view. That's the only way we're going to be able to get it. And so once people learn this, I think they'll adapt to a new paradigm. And that's what this is all about. It's like, you know what? We're going to look at, like, if we make a movie that cost $30 million, and hell, any movie under $100 million, there's a way to make that viable with a pay-per-view window. And it's going to keep getting more viable the more people get used to it. And they're going to start doing that on a movie-by-movie basis. I think taking it and doing it with animated films first is a good idea because, hey, you got kids, you spend $30, you get to play a movie as long as you want for a certain amount of time. The kids will watch it over and over again, and you realize that was money well spent. So we're in an evolutionary period right now, a real sea change.
I got to tell you, I disagree with you on that. I mean, on the one hand, I agree with your first point that, the changing of especially right now at this particular moment, the distribution model, this thing that Cinemark is doing allows as a best of both worlds, right? People who want to get out, go to the movies, whatever, you're going to get that with a theatrical. Then shortened theatrical window, people can then get it at home. But I disagree with you that people are going to adapt to a new reality on a film by film basis that you don't even get a night out of it, paying a premium price like $30 that we've been seeing with some of these things, $20 with some of them. I don't see it. And I think one of the things that's going to work against that is the growing explosion of subscription-based streaming. I think the whole idea of subscription-based streaming that we're seeing with Peacock, that we're seeing with Hulu and Disney and Amazon and HBO Max, I think that is doing the exact opposite of conditioning people to, oh, drop $25 for one movie that I'm just going to sit at home and watch when I pay $8 for a streaming. And I really think that whole model of the subscription-based service is unconditioning people from the idea of paying $25 to $30 for one movie at home. So, but it could go that way, the way you're describing. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know, but what do you think about Cinemark's move right now to try, like, I see it as a best of both worlds option. Do you see a drawback for them doing it this way right now? Because I only see it as a positive.
No, I see it as a positive too. You know, I do. And I think it's a company that is trying to adapt to the situation, the cards they've been dealt. And that's what companies do. That's what companies that survive do. You know, we're one of the great problems that a lot of maybe even American companies have when it comes to our great industries, say manufacturing, is that as automation has crept in and in most cases supplanted the need for workers, that American manufacturing did not pivot fast enough to adapt to new methods of doing things, which is why so much of our manufacturing base went overseas. And I think in this case, look, I agree with you that subscription services are making people think, well, why should I pay more? But what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to ingrain the idea that new movies, instead of being seen in a movie theater, new movies and paying a premium for new movies is a new thing. They have to convince people that even though and it's going to be tough. I'm not saying it's going to work or they're even going to eventually make it work, but the delivery system is the same. It's still your TV, you know, and that's how what they have to overcome. They're like, well, wait a minute. I'm already paying for Disney Plus. Why should I pay a premium to see Mulan on the same service? Well, people have to understand that what they're getting is a world premiere. You know, they're getting something they can't get any other way for paying this money for another 6 months or whatever, 3 months. Now that's a tough road to travel.
Well, I'll tell you another reason why it's a tough road to travel, because Netflix has been doing it for years and premiering new movies that they've produced or acquired without charging their consumers an additional price. It's hard to come in when there's already an established body like Netflix, because, I mean, we saw the revolt that happened when Disney Plus were charging their people $20 or $30, to watch Mulan. And they quickly retreated from that because now we've got Soul coming out.
Yeah.
And Disney was like, we heard you. Don't worry about it. We're just going to put it out. Because again, that's the way, I mean, Netflix has done it with varying degrees of success, but Netflix has been doing it that way for years. We got a brand new Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie, everybody. Boom. You're a subscriber, you get it for free. We got the new Adam Sandler, everybody. You're a subscriber, boom. We got that new Charlize Theron, The Old Guard, coming out. Boom. You're a subscriber, you get it for free. So they've already kind of laid the groundwork and established this is what the norm is.
Right.
That transition's going to be hard.
$1 billion.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
it's
good
true.
point.
It's true. But the one thing that Netflix has, or the one thing that the studios have that Netflix doesn't have, is the name Paramount or Sony or 20th Century, or, you know, Disney. And that's the thing. That's what they have to delineate themselves as. This is a major studio release, and the only way you can see it. The problem is, like you said, it's really hard because people are like, oh, what's the difference? I mean, yeah, The Old Guard came out, but those were not movies. Netflix was never making movies for theatrical, and the times they did, whether it was The Irishman or whether it was Roma, those were deals that they made with A-list filmmakers that would have been theatrical releases. But the general population doesn't know that. You know, the general population's like, well, I don't understand. Like, what difference does it make? Because in most people's minds, they don't really care. And then you're fighting against it's a big problem. The real problem is how do you make a $200 million? Will we be able to get $200 million movies anymore? The big end games, the big Star Wars movies. I mean, how do you, even Star Wars, people are getting a far more satisfying Star Wars experience every week with The Mandalorian than they got with The Rise of Skywalker. And let's face it, I mean, I would have thought Baby Yoda would have been played out by now. Nope. Now people are getting their sideshow life-size Baby Yodas, and they're taking them with them all over the city and taking pictures and putting them up online. I mean, Baby Yoda's now eating eggs, and people are like, Yoda's that Baby Yoda. I mean, he's not as nice as we thought he was, you know, doing funny stuff that people are loving. And people are still talking about The Mandalorian. I haven't heard anyone talk about Rise of Skywalker except in tones of great disdain for a long time. But man, yeah. Mandalorian, Star Wars is back. Obi-Wan is coming out, you know, and we're in a. Are they ever going to make $200 million movies again?
Not if they don't have to. Not if they don't have to, they won't. All right, question is for you guys. What do you think about this move by Cinemark? I actually think it's a pretty good move. Maybe not long term, but in the short term, I think it's a smart move. What do you guys think? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.